with open arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you, or anything that you learn from a book or from the news. It's not like that, cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
Welcome to the Bassline. Dr. Alan Bain is one of the right docs of history. He is humble. He is compassionate. He has treated many COVID patients, and now he is renowned for standing up for and treating the vaccine injured. It is with great gratitude that I welcome to the Bassline an undersung titan of medical freedom, Dr. Alan Bain. How are you this morning or this afternoon, Dr. Bain?
Thank you, Jeremiah. Very good. Thank you for allowing me to be here and inviting me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you. Couple quick announcements, everyone. This is my last announcement about this Sunday's program because, of course, the next Bassline episode is next Friday. And this Sunday, May 25th, we have another 528 frequency jam at Rock Mill Fitness. That's 274 Lenox Avenue, just south of 125th Street. It's 124th and Lenox. And it's a really great venue owned by a great community man named Milton Washington. And he is the founder of an incredible fitness system. But this is our third 528 jam featuring Mbira, African percussion, me on electric bass with my original loops, all in the 528 frequency. And it's going to be a really good time. So please come through. That's this Sunday. And it's 3:30 p.m., by the way. So it's an afternoon thing. It is not an evening thing. So you can get home and get organized for Monday morning. Also, of course, please check out my Substack. I have a new article underway. It'll be out pretty soon, before the end of the month for sure. And I'm getting messages that there's music still being heard. Is that possible? I'm not sure. I was getting messages there was some audio problem, but I'm not sure what's happening.
I don't have anything here.
Yeah, I don't hear anything either, so I don't know. I hope you guys can hear me. But, I don't know. I'm getting the message. Haven't heard one word. Can we get some other corroboration that people can hear the PRN signal? But in any case, please support my Substack, Jeremiah Hosea on Substack. Please go to my website, jeremiahhosea.com. Buy the theme song for this show for $1 or more if you care to. That's a great way to contribute. And of course, I'm a chess teacher. I'm the founder of remotelearningchess.com. And of course, you get a Bassline discount. Chess is an incredible way of activating your mind, and it's actually a health investment. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's a gymnasium for your mind, basically. It helps fire up those neurotransmitters to stave off dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's also just a very fun game. So please reach out to me for a chess lesson. Please buy a song. Please subscribe to my Substack, and please tell a friend about this Sunday on the 25th of this month. That's Sunday, Rock Mill Fitness, 274 Lenox Avenue. We're going to have a great time. My good friend Kevin Nathaniel, Hassan Bakar, Michael Gong, Craig Blue. We have a great lineup and some great rhythms in store for you. Let's see, what else? I want to also share a quick experience. I don't mean to divert from our topic at hand. We have an outstanding guest, but I do have to tell you, last night I had the unpleasant experience of being harassed by the NYPD. And I'll tell you exactly what happened. I was walking home, and I did what I do always, basically, is I went into the park. There's a little playground. It's not the fanciest playground, actually. It's kind of a schleppy playground. But I went into the playground on 127th Street in Adam Clayton Powell, And I set my bag down for just a moment to do 12 chin-ups, which is pretty basic routine for me. And then I just put on my bag and I was about to walk right out of the park. The entrance is only a good, 20 feet from where you would do these chin-ups I was doing. And the cops shined their flashlights on me and, called me over and kind of, wanted to sort of interrogate me. They weren't violent towards me physically, but wrote me a ticket that could reach, they said, between $50 and $200. I don't know if that's up to the arbitrary judgment of the judge, but I let those guys know that what they're doing is not a benefit to the community. They are a detriment to the community. There are so many things that I witness in my neighborhood that go completely unattended, unresponded to, and here they are harassing a law-abiding man, a family man, a married community man who just finished educating people, literally teaching chess lessons for the past 5 hours leading up to that incident. So, another example of strained relations between the police and the community, and another example of the state being unhelpful at best and actually a negative feature in the lives of people such as myself. So I just wanted to mention that experience. And I want to jump right into this conversation here with my esteemed guest, Dr. Alan Bain, who is a beloved figure in the medical freedom movement. And I hate to do this to you, Dr. Bain, but I'm sort of dragging you into something that I've been writing about and thinking about, and I'd love to get your input, which is the very broad question of what is COVID exactly? Because, you have people who say there was no COVID virus, and I wouldn't make that declaration. I've heard many people I consider to be intelligent and credible. They refer to COVID. We've seen the little illustration of the spike protein looking COVID molecule or whatever that is with the little spike sticking out of it. But it is rather confusing because of the PCR fraud that took place, right? There was a time where anything could be called COVID. So, if you get the chicken pox, we see the chicken pox all over your face, right? There's any number of diseases where they just kind of leave a clear symptomology where we say, okay, you have measles, you have chicken pox. What is COVID in your estimation?
Well, I firmly believe, I'm hoping everybody can hear us. And there's no
I've gotten confirmation that we're live.
Okay,
so
good. I believe that COVID is a virus, and it is a tinkered virus, tinkered with virus. And it, to me, this is going to sound ridiculous, but it was tinkered in a way where it almost was like a Frankenstein virus. There was something called a furin linkage, that a piece of that maybe came from maybe a monkey virus or whatever. And it is a virus. Now, when people say that there's no such thing as a virus and nobody's ever seen what a virus is, for me, it's moot. You can call it anything. It's an entity that we have testing to show that something does exist that can be counteracted with certain medications. So I know it's very confusing because there's non-medical people just putting it out there that this doesn't really exist. And I'm taking the side that it is a virus. And when they call it a novel virus, that disturbs me because it makes me feel like somebody was messing with some virus to call it novel. If you have a bad virus, you don't call it novel. You call it like, we don't know what this is, but it looks like a virus. Novel. So it's a very strange way to say it. Now, with respect to the flagrancy of the PCR testing, I agree with you. And also in terms of it being misused, whatever they're saying is positive, whatever that is, they're using that to lay hostage upon patients in hospitals. And actually, without symptomatology in hospitals, they would be treating or putting that into their statistics. So there's always stories about people they come into hospitals not for COVID, but for a broken leg. So that's part of the flagrancy that I'm seeing as well. There's also an idea that the PCR test, there were a lot of false positives, so you couldn't even tell the truth And the truth is in the clinical, actually. So there are people that I've had that their PCR test came back negative, but they lost their sense of smell. They decreased their oxygenation. They were hypoxic. So they had something, and we called it COVID back in the day.
Right. Yes, well, thank you for that. And I want to get right into something that I've heard you discuss before, but I'd love for you to discuss it here on these airwaves, which is just this topic of ivermectin. Now,
Yes,
first
sir.
it was hydroxychloroquine was the first thing I heard mention of, and then there was reportedly success with ivermectin. I've heard of a new thing from one of our esteemed doctors, nitazoxanide, which he says is extremely effective. But it was very confusing because, again, as a layperson and someone who has not read extensive research papers pertaining to ivermectin, it seemed like there was a little period where both sides were continually claiming victory. That it seemed like just as soon as someone said, that's it, it's proven, ivermectin is a wonder drug effectively, it's beating COVID, this is what should have been implemented in the first place, it seemed like, 24 hours later, someone else was saying, ivermectin is useless, it's been proven, people need to stop touting ivermectin, there's no proof that it has any benefit in treating COVID. I mean, and then, of course, I do want to throw in there, not to make it a more complicated discussion, but how come the people who were trying to bring down ivermectin or the usefulness of ivermectin, they had nothing to say for remdesivir? We all know remdesivir is a kidney killer and a killer, but they were concerned about ivermectin, which is a lot safer, from what I understand, than remdesivir, and I think more effective in treating COVID by far than remdesivir, from what I understand. But what do you say about all these comments that have been made about ivermectin, pro and con? What's your take?
Well, I've been in this since 2021, when I had 3 hospital patients where I was an expert witness, and I quoted an amazing journal article written by a young physician, ENT physician, and she did a literature search, and there's 20 different mechanisms of action of how ivermectin works. One could be to dislodge or decouple the ACE1 inhibitor. I can go on and on about how valuable ivermectin is. On what I say to the naysayers, and I want to answer your question more specifically, there's been a lot of manipulating data, and there would be trials that came out. There was something called the Neighbor trial. I think it was called the Neighbor trial. And they try to give it a fair shake, but it always was wrought with deception. Now, what I mean by that is when they come out and say, well, ivermectin doesn't do anything, we tried it. Well, when our doctors in the freedom movement would talk about ivermectin, they would say that article is kablooey, meaning it was too little of dosage, started too late, right, and not given for long enough time. So when you make parameters for a sick person, then, you really got to be careful when you're starting a drug. So it depends when your start and endpoints are, which dovetails into what you said, Jeremiah, because I'm trying to take care of all of your question. The remdesivir situation is it was taken off the shelf for Ebola, I think, and it had a 50% mortality rate to it. So it was just willy-nilly pulled off the shelf. And then when they figured out that it wasn't working so well, they changed the endpoint and moved the goalpost to make it look good. So a lot of manipulation of data here, okay? So that's the deeper level of, and another thing with ivermectin, there was a great man, Dr. Eli Schwartz in Israel. He was on Dr. Bain lectures, because I've been through this whole history because I'm living in it, where Dr. Eli Schwartz would say, well, we did X amount of studies, 30 people or 50 people, and we actually showed a decrease in the viral load pre and post ivermectin. So now they were trying to set up a double-blind study, but Israel was too busy giving everybody the COVID poison shot, And so that didn't, and maybe he had a position where he couldn't push that out there as much. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever anybody says about ivermectin, they're wrong. I'll come right out and say it. And I'm going to base it on one anecdote. The last case that we had, there were 3 in the hospital in Illinois. This one man, his pulse oximetry was 93%. We gave the ivermectin, and for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, the pulse ox, after we put the ivermectin down the nasogastric tube, it actually increased the oximetry up to 99, 100% for 5 or 6 minutes. So we have tons of research that says ivermectin, from years ago, here, this is constantly being upgraded. I'm going to read it to you. Yeah. Ivermectin reduces COVID-19 risk, real-time meta-analysis, 105 studies. Mm. We have a lot of heroes who have been pushed back, and some of those are from UK as well, where this I'm trying to recall her name. She's one of my heroes, but I recall her talking to Dr. Bain. I'm just explaining this in detail. One more thing, and I'll let you.
No, take your time, sir.
And she looked at a WHO study that was analyzed with Dr. Bain. Sorry, I'm having a mind block. About
Dr. Mo Bain.
Dr. Mo Bain, right. No, but I'm talking about our hero in the UK. Tess Lowry, my hero, Tess Lowry.
Yes.
Dr. Tess Lowry. If you can get her on some of your spaces, that would be miraculous. I'm telling you that right now.
I'd love to. Let's arrange that.
But I want to say something.
Yes.
So I recall, thank you, sorry. She says, look in the data of this, who was studying this particular cohort of data on ivermectin. Look in the data. It shows a benefit. And yet, the researchers, because of political reasons or what have you, they make the conclusion just the opposite of what the data shows. So this is just a travesty of, you can't even believe data or who says what. So I'm cautioning when I say all this. So this is why whatever's said about ivermectin, is just not correct. And one more thing is that it's just not about ivermectin, sir, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Because ivermectin was always the icing on the cake, and I never overstated it in my hospital cases. It was the extra thing to pull you to the finish line. Does that make sense? People needed to be on ventilators and steroids, and that's how, and sometimes ivermectin, you needed more. You needed IV steroids. So when people say ivermectin didn't work, I mean, they're looking at ivermectin like being the major magic thing. But it's an ensemble, and you're a musician. Ivermectin is hands down needed in this symphony and ensemble to save lives. And that's the thing about medical science, Jeremiah. When you do statistical analysis, you got to account for all of the variables, and let's not, you can't add this, and let's just make sure, you know this when you make
confounding variables, right?
Exactly. Look, the body is a symphony, just like when you go.
I have to tell you, I love the metaphor.
Well, it's true though. Thank you. The body's a symphony, and you can't just go, okay, here you got COVID. I'm just going to treat you with just ivermectin. No, you needed ivermectin. You needed Z-Pak because it has antiviral activity. I'm going to tell you, you needed vitamin D. You needed zinc. You needed the ensemble to save somebody's life. So the concept of ivermectin or look at this. I mean, research methodology is not meant for humanity in the way that when somebody's about to drop dead, God forbid, or croak because of the deoxygenation, you need everything on board, all hands on deck. So yes, ivermectin alone, I told you it did reduce things and viral load, but you needed other supporting people in the cast of the ensemble. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that is why the art of science is what this is all about. This is not only the art of medicine. The art of medicine is not amenable to research. End of story, case closed.
Powerful statement there. And when people are dying and there's an emergency situation and people are scrambling to try to treat patients, to say, you're not authorized to use this safe drug, something that's documented as being safe in an attempt to save lives. The analogy I use for that, it's like being in a war and with bullets whizzing past your head, citing your fellow officer for a uniform infraction. It's like, do you understand what's happening around you, that you're, so out of it?
Thank you.
That you're trying to cite a technicality. And in this case, it's even a wrong technicality. I guess the only flaw with my analogy is even a uniform infraction is a slight infraction. But here is just a sincere effort to try to save people, and to try to discourage that, or to harp on that as a point of attack just seems so diabolical, ultimately, when they made a whole campaign against this well-documented drug in terms of safety and effectiveness. I guess I'll ask you a quick other follow-up question about ivermectin before moving on, which is, I'm a person who generally avoids medication in general. I don't take any particular medications. I prefer to keep it that way. I don't even take painkillers. I mean, if I'm in pain for some reason or another, I don't take aspirin or anything. I just tough it out, which thankfully I'm not in a lot of pain. So, thankful for that. But what are your thoughts on ivermectin, or maybe even other medicines for prophylactic usage? Taking ivermectin once a week or once a month, is that something that you would ever recommend, or what do you say about that?
Well, there was a study in South America. We're talking about COVID, right?
Well, I don't mean in terms of COVID. I mean in terms of, for example, a healthy person who would, just like you might take vitamin supplements, would you ever recommend prophylactic medication for a healthy person?
Not ivermectin. If we're worrying about COVID, maybe yes, and that's a whole discussion to talk to you about.
Yeah,
I would recommend definitely. If you had to give me, and this based on my own experience and many other people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you had to push me on that, I'd say vitamin D and probiotics.
Okay, vitamin D and probiotics.
That's what I would say.
Sounds good.
That's what I would say. Vitamin D and probiotics.
Okay.
For winter, definitely, and vitamin C, of course, but D and probiotics. Probiotics jigs up in a good way the immune system. So if I had to tell you that, that's how I would word that.
Okay.
But just prophylactically doing ivermectin, I personally would not do that. I would support your body with your basics, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
That's just me, but yeah.
And of course.
But to have it ready, though, yes, to have it ready for other things,
Right. And of course, we are not providing medical advice here. We are simply, this is for educational purposes. This is not a medical consultation, just to be perfectly clear about that. So I want to discuss something that's just so painful to look at, something that I know you're very familiar with, which is vaccine injury. I am so taken aback. I am so startled. I'm so horrified when I see the range of vaccine injuries that people have experienced. I mean, there's people that you and I know personally who they not only have been injured by these shots, their health has been ravaged. They have problems with multiple organ systems. They're diagnosed with multiple diseases at once. They're losing their functionality in life. They have the agony of not being able to care for their families, and needing the children that they were raising are now helping them up the stairs, or helping them out of bed. I mean, people have really had their health destroyed by these injections. And then there are also people that I think we shouldn't forget about, who aren't as injured as those severely injured people, but they have considerable new injuries now. of all kinds. They've suffered kidney injuries. They have myocarditis, pericarditis, cancers,
Yes.
thrombosis. Dr. Ryan Cole has said, and I've used the phrase many times because it seems so accurate, that these injections were the Swiss Army knife of injury and death. Could you just give us, from your point of view, could you tell people what you've witnessed, what you know in terms of vaccine injury? Because there are still people who, I suppose, they took their injections, they haven't experienced acute injury themselves, and they're completely dismissive of the idea that these shots have actually injured people quite a bit.
Well, unpacking what you said is amazing. I've seen what I call 3 categories of vaccine or long COVID injury. There's the light, the medium, and the deep. And then there's the triple deep or the double deep. So when you have different organ systems being played out as well. So when we talk about vaccine injury, I could tell you that it's unpredictable which organ system is going to hit who, and depends on the blood type of the patient. Some people have a new diagnosis that I'm going to make a personality disorder when they get the shot, and they don't even care about the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
They have an egocentric indifference denial disorder, EIDD. It's not a legit. That's what I gave it a new name, EIDD.
I like it. I like it.
Yes, indifference, egocentric indifferent denial disorder. Now, that's and I talk to people about that, and I say, well, you sort of act like that, but you are a little compassionate, or sometimes you're not. But this is, you talk about chess. This is funny. Let's bring you back to chess.
Mm-hmm.
This is like unpredictable playing playground. And we soldiers, you and me, we're soldiers on the ground seeing a travesty. And this injury can go from, tingling of the hands and some sniffles or some chronic palpitations here and there, but not dangerous, but still not good, to somebody totally, and I have had one patient like this, totally bedridden, a very young lady who was totally bedridden, like literally bedridden, couldn't move at all, hardly. Had somebody else to move her. Otherwise, she'd go through post-exertional malaise of the major type. So when it hits the brain, there's a lot of brain inflammation. You've got with vaccine injury, you've got atypical presentations of regular disease process. So the doctors, are in denial of the fact that vaccine injury really exists, a lot of them, or they downplay it, or they say they've never seen it before, or they have actually medical denial disorder. They refuse to look at the purple elephant in the room. So this fallout is dangerous too, because it affects people's brains and it affects people's common sense. There's a cohort study of 86 different kinds of psychiatric disorders that came out as a result in studies and case studies of people getting the shot. So some people have a full body, really healthy, but they can't think straight anymore, or their judgment is off their rocker, or they get, episodes of anger or irritation, and they never had these problems before. Other than that, they're fine, right? But then there's other people who are bedridden. So so let me gave Dr. Ryan Cole's thing, which is perfect. He calls it a Swiss Army knife. I have a different metaphor, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
To me, the shot, because there's so many elements in this shot, and it has an electromagnetic component in it. So I actually like to say that when you're really vax-injured or poison spike injured, when you're poison spike injured, it actually scrambled your operating system, your natural God-given operating system. So that's why you're seeing things pop up like whack-a-mole. They go in, they go out. There's such a degree of unpredictability in this nature of spike poisoning that we've all experienced, whether it's getting COVID alone or being shed upon by electromagnetic excrescences from the shot itself. And so to give you one final metaphor for this, it's like nano. Remember, it's a nanoparticle. Remember, Jeremiah, you know this.
Yeah.
Okay, it's nano electromagnetic spaghetti rolled up into nano billiard balls bopping around your body.
Wow.
There's a deep metaphor.
Yeah, that's a heck of a metaphor, in fact.
Well, the reason is because it shows up in the neurologic system, and then all of a sudden it shows up here, and then it switches or it moves, or it's a shapeshifter in signaling. It's ridiculous. That's why a lot of people, when they try things, which is probably going to be something else you're going to want to talk about, but there are things to try to help.
Right.
But this is a very tricky area, sir.
Absolutely. Well, you actually led me perfectly into the next segment of the conversation, which is, I know there's a lot of work to do and there's a lot of unanswered questions still, but what have you witnessed in terms of anything that has been successful in treating the vaccine injured? I know you've worked with the vaccine injured, and Dr. Bain, I have to say for our audience, he's been really commended by the vaccine injured who have felt abandoned, and Dr. Bain has really been a positive force for a lot of people who have been hurt very badly. But what have you uncovered in the way of any sort of progress in terms of treating these horrific injuries?
Well, in the earlier days, and it's for like I said, the long COVID or spike poisoned instead of vax injured, I guess, injected spike poisoned injured. There's light, medium, and deep, and then I've made this system in my head. It's probably going to advance. There's like 0 to 10 in light, 0 to 10 in medium, and 0 to 10 in deep. And so in the earlier days when we were doing ivermectin and low-dose naltrexone and steroids, they all have their place in the light and in the medium cases, and even the nattokinase, if you recall Dr. McCullough's thing with nattokinase, bromelain, and quercetin. So these all are great things for the light and the medium cases, right? So, but the other problem is they, you got to stay on these things, and some people can get away from it, and some people can't. And sometimes it's, and you never know when it's going to pop out with a stress response. And that's a whole discussion of what is COVID relative, what does it do to the body, and one of the things that we've been doing, which helps, is at the histamine response. So a lot of people have been going because what develops is different diseases called mast cell activation disorder, POTS. All these things that really were rarities are no longer rarities because of the blessing, quote unquote, the sick blessing that Pfizer and Moderna put on us. The reverse blessing, shall we say, the anti-blessing, right? So this anti-blessing, the reason I call it an anti-blessing just now is because God gave us a body, and it's a blessing when the body works beautifully, because every day God is with us, or your body works beautifully. But the anti-blessing is the trashing of the operating system for those that are vax injured. So I've seen the regular things work for light and medium, but now I've entered into a phase of electromagnetic neutralization with homeopathy. I've been working a lot with a protocol that's a homeopathic spike detox that has a lot of promise, but that's for the light and medium. And then the deeper cases is something called True Dose, which is genius-driven PRP, platelet-rich plasma. And the reason I'm bringing these two things up is because, like I said, the body has been totally, in these cases, immune or mildly or medium or totally immune dysregulated. So neurologically immune dysregulated or immunologically immune dysregulated. So this key is a key word here. And we need some out-of-the-box elemental ways to treat the body to get it back on track. So this big thing for deep problems is the true dose of basically it's kind of amazing, really, and I don't want to talk too much, but it's like the air traffic controller system of your body, and it finds the problem, and it's using your own body system. It's like your own body's platelets to figure this out. And so I've been focusing on these things for the deep cases. But the light cases, we're still doing ivermectin, and some people do methylene blue and red light therapy, and there's people that came out with some sort of a patch that creates red light therapy. Some people have actually been using very, very low dose ketamine. Some people are trying, believe it or not, DMSO. There's a lot of people trying a lot of different things, and what works for one doesn't work for another. So even in the most experienced COVID operating practitioner, you've got to be willing to jump into the boat, to jump into the water with your patient. And that's where advocacy comes in, with advising people who are at level 1, where their regular doctor doesn't know what the heck is going on, who are vax injured, to give people a language. The bottom line is people do not have a language. So the doctors, the regular doctors, don't even have a language of vax injury, because they're vax injured themselves on some level, and they don't realize it. And they're in denial and in embarrassment that they bought it all hook, line, and sinker. So we're in very tricky times.
Yeah, to go back to the musical analogy, I almost view it like people who are just in a Broadway show. They simply go where they're instructed, right? If you're a part of a dance troupe or an orchestra, you play the notes that were written on the paper for you, follow the choreography. And that seems to be what happened in the medical profession largely. There was no one stopping to question anything or to change direction. It was just do as instructed by the producers and the directors.
Exactly.
I want to go ahead, sir.
One more thing I wanted to mention. Way back in the day, poor Dr. McCullough was called a snake oil salesman, or people like us back in the beginning when we were doing early treatment. And then Senator Ron Johnson, in the beginning days of the Senate hearing, they had Dr. Ashish Jha, who was the head of Boston Health Department, or the University of Boston, whatever their health thing is. And then you had Dr. McCullough and some other people there talking about early treatment and with different things. And Dr. Jha never treated one patient with COVID. So there's the choreographer talking to the soldier, telling the soldier, who really knows what the heck is going on, and the fact that soldiers were not, the grounds keepers, the grounds doctors were not being listened to by the soldiers. They didn't, and it was the generals that didn't listen to their lieutenants, and that is really not how you win a war. It's the soldier on the ground who wins the war.
That's true.
And I just needed to say that.
I appreciate that greatly. First of all, I want to reintroduce my guest. I'm not going to read my intro again, but I heard that there was some audio difficulties at the beginning of the program. I received an email confirming what someone else mentioned. So I just want to say we are talking to the outstanding Dr. Alan Bain, who is really a beloved figure in medical freedom and, as I called him, an undersung titan of the movement. Very wise, well-respected man who has not been promoting himself. He's not a sensationalist. He's just a boots on the ground, real deal MD who cares and who was courageous enough to speak up and to act. So we're here with Dr. Alan Bain. And also, if you can join us, we'd love to hear from you. Of course, the phone number is 888-874-4888, 888-874-4888. Please call up and share your thoughts. But I would like to ask you another question here, Dr. Bain, which is
before you ask me,
yes.
I'm a DO, I'm an osteopathic medical physician, which is the next level of MD. Meaning we were like the perfect mixture between the knowledge base of a chiropractor and an MD. I'm a DO.
Oh, thank you.
Tell you.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate
internal
that.
medicine.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's very helpful. And I want to ask you, Dr. Bain, in terms of, and actually, before I ask you a question, I do want to comment on something you just said there, which is, the attacks on Peter McCullough. I've never interviewed Peter McCullough. I've never met him, but he's a heart specialist. He's a cardiologist, and he said, "Hey, this stuff is injuring people's hearts." I mean, that's kind of, I don't mean to dismiss him because I think he's an interesting, knowledgeable man. I think he did a great job in the Ron Johnson hearing a couple days ago. But, rather than nitpicking and trying to find fault with people on the right side of history, I think we should just take the poignant points that they've brought to the table and focus on that. He's a cardiologist. He says this stuff is injuring people's hearts. I think that's pretty profound. And then we have his fellow cardiologist, Dr. Asim Malhotra, who's in the UK, who agrees with Dr. McCullough. They went on a brief tour together, two cardiologists from opposite sides of the Atlantic, saying this medication that you pressured people to take, that you coerced people to take, it's injuring people's hearts. So how we would ignore that, or why we would go around that primary statement to nitpick and find fault or whatever, I don't see the point in that. And I'll also say that as far as grifters go, that's a term that of course has been thrown around. How about the grifting of major pharmaceutical corporations who are selling out the human race lock, stock, and barrel? I mean, how much money has any particular person made selling a book or selling some supplements? These corporations are making money hand over fist, and they're protected with total liability protection. So, I don't even want to hear about grifters until we've addressed these corporations that have basically robbed the public treasury and don't even have to pay for the cost of doing business in the ordinary sense. Aaron Siri, an attorney who also made a great presentation at the hearing the other day held by Senator Ron Johnson. Aaron Siri.
Another hero, lawyer hero, yes.
Yeah, and he makes an outstanding point where he says, why do you need liability protection if you claim your product is safe? The chainsaw industry doesn't claim their product is safe, and they don't get liability protection. So why do you provide liability protection for a supposedly safe product? That makes no sense. And even if people are pro-vax, which I don't think they really would be if they looked into it a little bit deeper, but even for the people who claim to be pro-vax, they're really anti-vax in a lot of ways because they're anti the regulatory processes that would make this decent in any way. They're against safety standards. They're almost to the point where it seems like just inject any old thing into people, call it a vaccine, and it's just fine. I mean, soon they're just going to be injecting people with gasoline and calling it a vaccine. And which I guess takes me to my next question, Dr. Bain, which is, what is your take on vaccines writ large? I mean, we have different categories of doctors who have appeared on this program. There are people who were not anti-vax but have sort of become anti-vax through this experience. There have been other doctors who were against vaccines before the COVID event happened. There are some doctors even who are cautious about vaccines at the very least, but have not given up on vaccination as a concept and as a practice. Where do you stand currently in terms of vaccination as a practice?
In general, I'm very leery of all of it now because I don't know what's in the products. I don't know how pure they are. I have a very special person who I've known for 20 years who was Gardasil injured and still affected by it because some nurse practitioner just thought that she'd run into the room and the person was married, willy-nilly just giving this Gardasil shot. The mistrust that I have overall, it's not good. I mean, even for children, there's a whole discussion of MMR, and they try to debunk that. We have this increase in autism going on, and so many naysayers or the people that want to persist in this, the people that have the money to push these vaxes, there's no reason why we should have this much autism. There is no reason. There is something that was being injected into these little young tykes. Maybe it's the water or two, but I don't know that it would be so profound. And you have gaslit mothers that they said, my children were speaking 10 words. The minute they got the MMR, a few days later, they had a fever. They just became what we consider autism.
Mm-hmm.
The denial of a mother or a father for seeing reality, obfuscation of truth, obfuscation of reality, and the lack of listening to the best witness is the mother and the father of what's going on. So long gone are the days, in my mind, of experts and no offense, respect for doctors in this case, because the doctors are playing their game of positioning and power. And if they think that the mother is wrong based upon what they're seeing, and they're calling the mother hysterical, that they don't see their child losing words, there's so much clouding and flack being thrown at decent thinking patterns of a normal mother or a normal father.
Right.
So, and I understand you asked about the vaccine. I don't trust a lot of this because I don't know what's in them. I'm not per se anti-vax. I've received my usual vaxes, but right now they give the kids too many, and all at once. Maybe if they had to give the vaccines, they have to separate them out more. Now, here's the kicker, is if any of these are messenger RNA, the newer ones, if there's newer flu vaxes or the newer whatever, RSV vaxes, if it's messenger RNA born, call me an anti-messenger RNA vaxxer, anti-vax messenger RNA. They haven't figured it out yet, and they're pawning crud on the public, and that's not fair.
Yeah. Like another controversial figure, Dr. Robert Malone, said profoundly, they're playing fast and loose with public health. And it's such a painful thing that you highlight there in terms of parents who they had healthy children. They take their child in for quote unquote routine shots, and then the child starts deteriorating before them. The child who is meeting milestones suddenly regresses. And I cannot imagine something more painful for a parent. I mean, I have 2 young children, and we just want our children to be healthy. We want our children to succeed. There's nothing more important to a parent. So I can't imagine how torturous this is, and what a cruel society we've become to turn our back on people who are saying, my child took this medical intervention and hasn't been the same since. And it's so disgusting to me. I mean, even Bernie Sanders, when he was questioning RFK during the confirmation hearing, it angers me that these people, when the question of autism is brought to their attention and a possible link between vaccines and autism, as though they have no concern for the human beings, for the children who are injured in this, they just launch into these passionate defenses of the medical product, of the pharmaceutical corporation, with no human regard. It's like, okay, if vaccines aren't the cause of autism, how come you're more interested in defending vaccines than figuring out what the cause is? It's so twisted to me. But we have an exceptional caller on the line. My friend Mohammed is on the line. If you want to join us, we have about 10 minutes left in the program. We'd love to hear from you, 888-874-4888. But in the meantime, we have my friend Mohammed. How are you today, brother? Thanks for calling.
I'm fine, thank you, Jeremiah. Good afternoon. And to the doctor you have with you, too. I'm just going to say you have some very wonderful people on there. And the lady was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Dr. Ariana Love. I listened to that program about 10, 11 times, and just the anthrax, the graphene oxide, the cyanide, the thing that they put in the bomb, and just amazing. Jeremiah, you're doing a wonderful job.
I appreciate
that. The only
that.
reason you couldn't get us that day is because when we would turn the phone on and listen, we couldn't hear you. But we definitely wanted to hear that lady, so we had to hang up.
I understand. Yeah, it's too bad we couldn't have calls with Dr. Ariana Love because there was just a little bit of technical problem with the phone line. But
thank you very much, and I'm gonna be much more supportive in the future. Also,
thank you.
Have a good day and keep the good work up.
Oh, I appreciate that so much, Muhammad. And I want to say to everyone, please go to the Bassline archive. To do so, you go to the Bassline, and by the way, it's BASSLINE because it's a bass line like a song because I'm an electric bass player like I'll be doing on Sunday. And go to the Bassline.podbean, PODBEAN.com. Please download every episode. If you have any hard drive space, please open up a folder and keep these episodes on record. It really means a lot to me to know that it's not just being kept in this centralized repository, which is Podbean, but if I knew that all these episodes were backed up on various hard drives, that would be very comforting to me. And also it's an indication that we're reaching people because the number of downloads per episode, it fluctuates quite a bit. And I feel like with the consistency that I've shown and with the guests that I've been able to bring to the table, I think that these episodes should be spread far and wide. Also, if you want to republish these episodes on a Rumble channel, Odyssey, whatever, please let me know because I'd love to know about it, but you absolutely have my permission to do so. The whole point is to spread this information as far and wide as possible and just to engage in the discussion. That's another point that I'd like to make, which is, as a chess teacher, I've said this before, but as a chess teacher, I can't just highlight excellent moves. We have to study and analyze mistakes as well. So if something is incorrect, that doesn't make it bad. We can learn through the process of discussing what makes something incorrect. This notion of sterilizing information and never being exposed to misinformation, but only being exposed to truth. It's just not the truth process. That's not the way by which we arrive at the truth. So please download the Bassline and please help me spread the word about this program. As you can see, I'm very dedicated to it, and you guys are the wind beneath my wings. We have Terry on the line from Boston. Thank you so much for calling, Terry. How are you?
Hello, good afternoon. I have 2 points that I'd like to remark on.
Please speak up a little bit if you could.
Okay, one is that I read a book that said that the online of 5G appeared on the scene at the same time as the so-called disease virus, and that that the 5G was the cause, and they equated it to the virus in order to cover the effects of 5G, but that they are synonymous. And so I want a clarification of that. And the other one is the word virus. I've looked it up 10 times and it remains the same. A virus cannot exist outside of the body. It's not on door handles. It's not in anyone's breath because it's a mechanism. It's not a thing. It's a mechanism that incites the immune system to function, to go into action. So if I've been feeling since this whole time, if someone would just emphasize that people would stop succumbing to the hype about a virus, this as if there's something transmittable or existing outside, and they could understand, they could just stand past that. The irony is that a bacteria can do those things, but they didn't call it a bacteria, they call it a virus. And all you have to do is look up virus in the dictionary, medical or otherwise, and you'll discern that a virus is not a thing. And it certainly works within your molecular structure, but that's the only place it works. It divides and whatever within your molecular structure in order to incite your immune system to go to work to protect the body. So I would appreciate commentary on either one of those.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. I just want to say quickly, it was very strange I don't know the 5G connection, but 5G was on the short list of things that you were not allowed to discuss in the outset of COVID. That if you questioned the virus, or certainly if you questioned the vaccines, that was a no-no across any number of social media platforms like YouTube, first of all. But if you mentioned 5G, that was on the short list to ensure that you were censored. So was that to throw people off? Is there a connection? I don't know. One question I have about the 5G thing is it doesn't seem to me completely outlandish that that could have been harmful, but I just wonder why it would harm specific people and not just harm people broadly is one thing I didn't quite get about that theory. But then also you make interesting points about viruses. They're not easy to describe. It's not what we think it is. It's not just something floating, wafting around in the air and it goes in your nostrils and now you got sick from a virus. We have a lot to learn about this, it seems. What do you say, Dr. Bain, about those two subjects?
Well, I know there's a lot of belief in the 5G, perhaps utilizing it to, access whatever electromagnetics the poison spike injection did. I don't have enough data to really confirm or deny that. There's a lot of beliefs in this. I don't have enough experience in saying that what 5G is really about, and if it was part of I've heard stories that it's been being set up very carefully, like a specialized pattern, and people are looking at those patterns from the aerial view, and I just can't say much about it. I apologize.
Oh, well, I prefer that you are realistic about your own limitations.
Yeah, I'm limited on that. Yeah,
And as far as the discussion of viruses not existing outside of the body, that's something I've heard as well, that when we look at a virus, we're sort of looking at a cocktail of things, and that we can't isolate viruses. Is that true? I mean, I know you're not a virologist per se, but
I think they've developed some pictures to see these things, so I like the idea that was mentioned that they can't exist. Well, there's something that's transferring. We don't need to use the word virus. There is some humor. Let's use the old way back in the day, in the 1500s. There's some weird humor in the air. I don't mean laugh, ha, ha, but some element of electromagnetic that is altered in the energetic space of somebody that could look like a virus or feel like whatever a virus can express. There are these ideas, and I get that. Everybody talks about shedding, the electromagnetics that comes off of somebody getting a shot, and what is that? Did anybody ever see the exosome come out of the lips of a person who was just recently vaccinated? I mean, I'll give you an example of shedding. I've got, and I don't mean animal shedding, but 3 dogs during 2021 where the height of all the vaccines were happening, and they all got cancer. I had 3 dogs in my family develop cancer within a 12-month period. Did they get vaccinated? No. Did they get the virus? No. What did they get? I mean, there's phenomena that we can't capture sometimes. And if there's phenomena that we can't capture, then I can't make absolute assertions about what other people make absolute assertions about,
right,
if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do know when you see people getting rare cancers that never are supposed to exist, or central venous thromboses that you never see, except very rarely, these types of strokes, and you're just going to say it's the food supply or something, and the only thing that was changed in the environment with COVID and its companion, the spike injection, and there's something there. I'm not going to make a conclusion. There's something there, and to go into the minutia of, that there's really no virus there. There was something that immune dysregulated.
Yeah.
And all I can say.
Yeah, well, good timing because we're just about out of time here, Dr. Bain. It was such a pleasure talking with you. We really appreciate
Yes,
your
sir.
efforts. Thank you for your contribution to the Stop the Shots community. We're on live
Yes.
every night on X, 9 p.m. EST. And
Right.
peace and love to everyone. Have a great weekend and see you this Sunday if
People
you can
want
make
to.
it.
People. Okay.
Sorry about that,
Thank you.
Dr. Bain. Yeah, we'll talk to you
No,
soon,
no.
Dr. Bain. It's such a
Okay,
pleasure.
take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have to be afraid of anything, cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you or anything that you learned from a book or from the news. It's not like that, cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Dib on baby did alone.